What if the space around you right now isn't just passive, like a backdrop?
Yeah, what if it's actually an active force?
Right, subtly tweaking your mood, maybe your focus, even like the rhythm of your thoughts.
Exactly.
Welcome everyone to another deep dive with My Mind MashUps.
And today, we're diving into the sources you shared to explore that very idea, this powerful, often kind of hidden link between our environments.
Both physical rooms and, digital spaces too.
Right, and how they shape our brainwave activity, our mood, even our ability to think clearly.
We've touched on bits of this before, haven't we? Like how architecture can influence us.
We have, but this time we're zooming out, looking at the whole sensory picture and how it fundamentally connects with your brain.
Okay. And to really get that, I guess we need a quick primer on brainwaves themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Think of them like different speeds or frequencies your brain runs at, each one linked to a different mental state.
Okay.
We measure them with EEG, that's electroencephalography, and the sources kind of break them down into 5 main types.
All right, like different gears your brain shifts into throughout the day and night.
Exactly.
So first up, the slowest one, delta waves. Pulsing between what, 0.5 and 4 hertz?
That's it, delta. It's the bedrock of that really deep restorative sleep,
Okay.
This is when your brain's doing its really crucial maintenance, fixing cells, releasing hormones, consolidating those deep memories.
Oh, the important stuff.
Totally essential for feeling properly revitalized. And it's interesting how delta activity tends to naturally decrease as we get older.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The sources also note that if you see a lot of delta activity when someone's actually awake, that could point to some issues.
Got it. Okay, shifting up a gear then. Theta waves, 4 to 8 hertz.
Yep, theta, often called the twilight state, kind of the bridge between awake and asleep.
Right.
You see them in light sleep, REM sleep, dreaming, and also in deep meditation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Theta is also super active when you're learning new things.
Learning and navigating, right, like finding your way around.
Exactly. Theta's key for forming and recalling memories and for that spatial awareness. The sources talk about something called phase precession in the hippocampus.
Okay.
Basically, your brain organizing the timeline of events past, present, future within these theta cycles. It's absolutely critical for building your personal timeline and knowing where you are.
Wow.
And theta is also linked to bursts of creativity, intuition, and helping regulate emotions.
Okay, fascinating. Moving faster still, alpha waves. 8 to 12 hertz. These were the first ones found, right? Way back.
But yeah, back in the 1920s, alpha is the rhythm of like relaxed awareness.
So closing your eyes, chilling out. That's alpha.
Alpha activity increases then, and when you need to really focus hard, it tends to decrease.
Okay.
And alpha was initially seen as just the brain idling, but
It's more complex.
much more. The sources show it's actually quite active. It's like an internal filter, kind of inhibiting or quieting down the brain parts you don't need at that moment.
Ah, so it helps you focus by blocking out distractions.
Precisely. Reduces interference from irrelevant sensory stuff. And more alpha isn't just about relaxing, it's linked to lower stress, anxiety, depression, even better memory and problem solving. Your own personal peak alpha frequency might even correlate with general intelligence, which is pretty interesting.
Okay, let's keep going. Now we hit beta waves.
Yeah.
12 to 30 hertz. This is the main one for when we're awake and active.
Yeah, beta is your dominant rhythm when you're wide awake, alert, actively thinking, solving problems, making decisions, all that cognitive work.
Okay, where does it happen mostly?
Concentrated in the frontal lobe. It's essential for focused attention, logical reasoning. The sources mention having too little beta might make it hard to concentrate,
Right.
but having too much can ramp up anxiety, stress, or give you those scattered racing thoughts.
Yeah, I could see that.
And what's really fascinating is the sources found different speeds of beta waves active in different parts of the prefrontal cortex.
Oh.
Yeah, suggesting your brain uses subtly different frequencies for different kinds of focused thinking.
Wild. Okay, finally the fastest ones. Gamma waves. Like 30 to 100 hertz. That seems really fast.
It is. Gamma is associated with peak cognitive performance, integrating information, pulling everything together.
Pulling it together, how?
Well, it's often described as the brain linking sights, sounds, feelings into one smooth, unified experience. It's crucial for working memory, holding multiple things in mind, maintaining attention.
Okay.
And that process, the sources call perceptual grouping, making sense of complex sensory input.
Right.
You see high gamma activity during alert wakefulness, and things like meditation can boost it. Disrupted gamma is seen in conditions like Alzheimer's or schizophrenia, which really highlights how important it is.
Although it can be tricky to measure accurately with standard EEG because of muscle noise.
Exactly, yeah. The sources note that challenge with scalp EEG, muscle activity can interfere.
Okay, so we've got this whole orchestra of brain activity happening constantly. Delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma.
Right, all playing together.
And here's where it gets really interesting. These brain states aren't just happening inside us, sealed off. Our environment is actively shaping them, tuning the dial.
That's the core idea, yeah. Environmental psychology gives us really clear evidence that our surroundings profoundly influence these neural oscillations, our mental states, even our ability to recover.
So the physical spaces, they're not just backdrops.
Not at all. They're active participants in our cognitive and emotional health. The sources really dive into this. Let's start with something many of us deal with: clutter.
Ah, the messy desk syndrome. That totally makes sense. You walk into a chaotic space and just feel, overwhelmed.
You're not imagining it. The key insight here is that clutter isn't just visual mess, it's like a literal cognitive tax.
A tax? How so?
All those extra objects, the disorganization, they create visual noise that just overwhelms your brain's processing capacity. Studies show cluttered spaces can actually elevate cortisol levels.
Your stress hormone, wow.
Yeah, so it's a biological stressor, not just, an aesthetic issue. Research out of UCLA even found that cluttered homes can induce a kind of low-grade fight-or-flight response.
Seriously?
Yeah, and it impacts your decision-making because your prefrontal cortex, where you do that complex thinking, gets overloaded. It's like maxing out your computer's RAM, Everything slows down.
So decluttering isn't just tidying.
No, it's restoring mental bandwidth, freeing up valuable cognitive space.
A tidy desk is literally a performance enhancer then. That's fascinating. Okay, what about another big one? Light. We know it affects sleep, but how does it influence our brainwaves and thinking during the day?
Well, lighting quality directly modulates brainwave activity. The sources point to studies showing bright light therapy specific levels of light can actually increase the volume of a brain region crucial for memory.
Increase the volume.
Yeah, and significantly reduce depressive symptoms. And think about this. Just wearing blue light filtering glasses has been shown to lower beta wave power, that frequency linked to anxiety and active thinking, by a noticeable percentage.
Wow, that's a big drop just from glasses. It really shows how powerful light is.
It absolutely does. And natural light especially is incredibly powerful.
Right.
The sources cite studies where hospital patients in rooms with big windows recovered faster, had shorter stays after surgery.
Why is that?
Partly because natural light helps regulate their circadian rhythms, boosts mood chemicals like serotonin, and dynamic lighting.
The kind that changes like daylight.
Exactly. That's been shown to enhance focus and even cut errors in office settings.
Nature itself keeps coming up in these sources, doesn't it? This idea of biophilic design, bringing nature inside. How does that affect our brainwaves?
Yeah, biophilic design, incorporating natural elements like plants, water, views of nature, it actively reshapes neural activity.
How so?
Well, the sources mention a study where just walking in a bamboo forest for 15 minutes increased high alpha wave power.
Alpha? So relaxation.
Yep, produced a state of relaxation similar to meditation. And even just having access to urban green spaces can improve processing speed and attention.
So it's not just about being in nature, even just like seeing it helps.
Yes, that visual connection is really powerful. The sources noted hospital patients with views of greenery needed significantly fewer painkillers.
Fewer painkillers. Amazing.
Yeah, healing gardens reduce stress hormones. And on a brainwave level, EEG data suggests seeing nature helps synchronize theta waves in the hippocampus, which enhances memory consolidation.
Hey, again, for memory.
It's like nature provides this natural rhythm your brain can easily tune into for calm and recovery.
Okay, let's switch senses. What about sound? The sources called it the sonic brain. That sounds important.
Soundscapes are definitely invisible architects of our mental states. Think about chronic exposure to unwanted noise, like traffic noise above a certain level.
Oh, yeah.
That triggers a stress response, increases cortisol, suppresses your body's ability to rest and recover. That constant state of hypervigilance wears down working memory and ramps up beta wave activity.
Keeps you on edge.
Exactly. Makes it harder to focus. I definitely feel that on a busy street or during a noisy commute.
Me too. It just grates on you.
It forces your brain into less efficient processing. But what's interesting is this sort of paradoxical effect of white noise.
Paroxysmal how?
The sources suggest that at moderate levels, a uniform sound like white noise can actually enhance signal detection,
Signal detection.
like picking out important information, and increase gamma wave synchrony, which can temporarily improve focus.
Okay, so white noise isn't just random noise, it's a specific frequency mix that can sometimes help focus.
Right. But, and this is important, the sources also warn that prolonged exposure to white noise might impair creative problem solving and reduce brain activity in certain areas over time. So it suggests maybe short bursts could help focus, but having it on constantly might hinder broader thinking.
Interesting balance. What about the opposite of noise pollution? Like nature sounds?
Exactly. The sources highlight biophilic soundscapes, recordings of forests, water, birdsong. These can induce restoration within minutes.
Oh. What do they do to brainwaves?
They increase alpha wave power, which correlates with faster clearance of stress hormones. It's like an acoustic Valium, basically.
Acoustic Valium, I like that.
Reduces perceived stress by calming brain regions linked to fear. The sources even mention hospitals using this post-op patients listening to nature sounds needed fewer opioids.
Fewer opioids. That suggests theta waves might be involved too, helping with pain signal.
That's the suggestion, yeah. Possibly theta wave synchronization helping reduce pain signals.
It's incredible that sound alone can have such a physiological effect. And the sources also pointed out that hospital architecture itself can be like a medical intervention.
Absolutely. Designing hospitals with things like single rooms and really effective noise reduction has been shown to cut rates of delirium.
Wow.
Simply being physically closer to care teams reduced anxiety-linked beta wave activity in ICU patients. Design elements that make it easy to navigate a building. They reduce stress and cortisol.
So less getting lost means less stress.
That makes sense. Quiet zones improve memory performance. Even the colors on the walls, soothing palettes, can decrease that gamma wave hyperactivity in agitated patients.
So intentional design can actively, modulate our brain waves and mental states.
Yeah.
Beyond color and sound, what about shapes and spatial flow? The sources said the brain prefers curves.
It seems to, yes. The sources found that angular shapes, like sharp corners, tend to activate the amygdala.
The threat detection part of the brain.
That's the one. Curved environments, on the other hand, seem to reduce amygdala activation and increase theta wave synchronization in areas linked to emotional regulation. That correlates with feelings of calmness.
So a room with soft, curved lines might actually feel safer or calmer than one full of sharp angles on a brain level.
That's what the research suggests, yeah. The sources mention people in rounded office layouts solved problems faster, made fewer errors on creative tasks. And in hospitals, curved recovery rooms were linked to less need for pain relief and faster wound healing, probably because they promote a more relaxed state.
And what about sacred geometry? The sources mention things like the golden ratio.
Right. Incorporating proportions found in nature, like the golden ratio phi in design or layouts, seems to enhance gamma wave synchronization across brain networks.
Gamma again. For integration.
Yeah, linked to improved working memory, faster problem solving. The sources suggest the brain might have this kind of intrinsic positive resonance with these harmonic patterns, fostering a state of relaxed focus.
What about how we actually move through a space? Does the layout impact our brain's navigation system?
Definitely. Spatial layouts shape our brain's internal navigation systems, which rely heavily on those hippocampal theta rhythms we talked about.
Theta for navigation, right?
The sources found that circular floor plans might actually improve spatial memory compared to standard grid layouts, possibly because they align better with how the brain naturally encodes movement.
Interesting. And complex, angular layouts.
They can, conversely, overactivate certain brain regions and lead to mental fatigue.
Okay, so that covers a lot about our physical surroundings.
Yeah.
But let's pivot this to our, increasingly dominant digital world. We spend so much time staring at screens. How do these digital environments shape our brainwaves?
Yeah, that's a huge one. The sources really highlight that digital interfaces have, reshaped our neurophysiology. Prolonged screen exposure, especially in kids, can alter the ratio of theta to beta waves in the brain, sometimes mimicking patterns seen in conditions like ADHD.
Oh, wow. That could impair attention and working memory then.
That's the concern, yes.
That's incredibly concerning, especially thinking about developing brains.
It really is. The sources note that early screen exposure in infants has even been linked to reduced executive functioning years later. And while targeted blue light exposure can briefly boost working memory, chronic use tends to lead to cognitive fatigue.
What about EMF radiation from devices? There's, a lot of talk about that.
Right. The research on EMF and health is complex, and as the sources point out, it's still pretty contentious. It's really important to separate the established evidence from, well, unsubstantiated claims.
Okay. What do the sources say is established?
They mention some animal studies showing changes in blood-brain barriers with specific types of RF EMF exposure, and some human EEG data shows altered alpha power during phone use.
Altered alpha.
Yeah. However, and this is key, the sources emphasize that large, long-term studies linking this directly to specific diseases like cancer currently show weak evidence.
Weak evidence.
Right. The WHO does classify RF EMF as a possible carcinogen, meaning there's some evidence, but it's not strong enough to prove a causal link. And the sources stress that claims about conditions like electromagnetic hypersensitivity currently lack a clear physiological basis in studies.
Okay, so understandable to be cautious, but we need to stick to what the actual evidence from the sources says right now.
Precisely. And the sources give us much clearer evidence on other digital factors like screen color temperature.
Blue light.
Exactly. Blue light from screens, especially in the evening, is a potent suppressor of melatonin.
The sleep hormone.
Yep, the hormone that tells your body it's time to sleep. This significantly disrupts your circadian rhythm and negatively impacts your sleep architecture, the different sleep stages, which of course affects how your brain functions when you're awake.
Ah, so that confirms why those blue light blockers before bed aren't just hype. They're literally protecting your natural brainwave cycle for sleep.
They're helping prevent that melatonin suppression, and conversely, warmer screen light actually increases nocturnal melatonin production.
So warmer light at night is better.
Yeah, the sources suggest a dynamic approach is good. Maybe use brighter, cooler light around 6500 Kelvin during the day to support alertness.
Okay.
And then automatically shift to warmer light below 3000 Kelvin in the evening.
And what about how apps are designed? Does that interface design play a role too?
Oh, absolutely. Interface design significantly impacts our cognitive state. Think about features like infinite scroll. That can encourage what's called attentional fragmentation. Your focus gets broken up over and over and increases mind wandering. Notifications are constant interruptions, right?
Totally.
They force your prefrontal cortex to keep engaging inhibitory control to resist checking them. That constant mental effort just reduces the working memory capacity you have available for whatever you were actually trying to focus on.
Man, it really feels like everything is competing for our brain's limited resources these days.
It often is.
So, knowing all this about brainwaves, how different environments, physical and digital, impact them, how can we use these insights? How can we intentionally design our own brain-friendly spaces?
Yeah, that's the practical takeaway, isn't it? The sources offer several really evidence-based strategies. You can consciously try to modulate your brainwave states.
Boosting relaxation or enhancing focus.
Exactly. Promoting relaxation, which often means boosting alpha waves or enhancing focus, maybe supporting beta waves, just by adjusting elements in your environment.
Okay, let's break that down. If you want to create a space for relaxation, what are the key environmental tweaks based on what we've discussed from the sources?
Okay, for relaxation, think about mimicking sunset. Use warm, dim lighting, low intensity, reddish hues.
Got it.
Incorporate those biophilic elements, maybe plants with natural fractal patterns, or a small water feature with gentle, consistent sounds acoustically. Pink noise at a low volume, or those binaural nature soundscapes we talked about, can be really effective. Spatially, lean towards curved furniture and layouts, not sharp angles.
Curves, not corners.
Right. And don't forget other senses, maybe diffusing a calming scent like lavender, or using natural tactile materials like wood or soft fabric.
Yeah, makes sense. And what if you need the opposite? A space designed for focus or productivity?
All right, for focus, dynamic cool lighting can help boost those beta waves for alertness during the day.
Cool light for focus.
Yeah. Maybe consider positioning something like a vertical green wall behind your workstation. The sources suggest that can support attention.
A green wall.
Sound-wise, certain soundscapes like narrowband white noise at moderate levels might enhance signal detection for focused tasks. But remember the caveats about prolonged use.
Right. Short bursts, maybe?
Spatially, layouts with clear visual hierarchies or maybe even hexagonal patterns are being explored for potential cognitive benefits. And multisensory stuff, like peppermint scents, are also being studied for potentially enhancing alertness.
It sounds like the goal isn't necessarily a huge overhaul, but making small, intentional tweaks based on how these different elements affect your brain's operating frequency.
Precisely. You could use smart bulbs to automatically shift color temperature, add a small plant to your desk, or a tabletop water feature. Experiment with different background sounds while you work or relax.
It's about becoming a conscious architect of your own cognitive landscape.
That's a great way to put it.
So pulling this all together, what's the big takeaway here?
I think it's that your environment isn't just where you are, it's actively shaping your brain's frequencies, and therefore your mental state, really moment by moment. And knowing that empowers you, right? You can intentionally design or adjust your surroundings to better support whatever state you need.
Whether that's relaxation or focus.
Exactly. Using the principles we talked about from the sources, warm lighting, nature sounds, curves, less clutter, simple things.
So, a challenge for everyone listening. Take a look around your spaces today, your physical rooms, your digital interfaces, and just consider what vibe or maybe what brainwave state are they currently programming you for?
Yeah, understanding these connections can really lead to significant shifts in your daily experience, your well-being. And hey, if you found this deep dive valuable,
please do like, share, and subscribe or follow Mi Mind MashUps. It really helps us bring you more deep dives like this one.
Absolutely.
And you can find Mi Mind MashUps on Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Casts, Spotify, and YouTube. Pretty much wherever you get your podcasts.
And as you start looking at your spaces a bit differently, maybe consider this final thought. How might even the smallest environmental tweak you make today create a really noticeable positive shift in your mental state tomorrow?
Ooh, good one to ponder.